Tensions escalating in Syria after a report that about 100 Russian mercenaries were killed in a U.S. airstrike. The latest violence leading to fears of a proxy war. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley laying some of the blame on the Russians during a Security Council meeting this morning.
Much of the violence is happening in so-called de-escalation zones. Russia was supposed to guarantee adherence to these de-escalation zones to help the political process. But then again, Russia was also supposed to guarantee that all chemical weapons would be removed from Syria. Instead, we see the Assad regime continue to bomb, starve, and yes, gas civilians.
Let's bring in Lieutenant Colonel Michael Waltz, a former U.S. Army Green Beret commander and counterterrorism advisor to Vice President Cheney and the author of a wonderful book, Warrior Diplomat, it is called.
Thanks, Dana.
Okay, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
What do you think is happening? And in particular, what does it mean that there are mercenaries there for Russia? And how does that whole play into the picture? Because it's quite interesting, I think.
Well, first, I love the straight talk from Ambassador Haley. So here's what Russia's doing. You know, they publicly said mission accomplished and we're drawing down in Syria. But what they're really doing, and Putin is behind this, is they're seeding mercenaries and covert forces with Assad's army as it continues its offensive. So what does this do? It allows Russia to have deniability. It's exactly what they did in the Ukraine. It's exactly what they did in Crimea. And it allows Putin to publicly and internationally deny involvement with Assad's brutality. And then domestically, and this is important for Putin, in Russia, he's facing growing questions about the cost of the intervention, about the number of casualties, and about the length of it. And it gives him deniability there, too.
So then also take a listen now to the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates, on what he said yesterday about Iran's involvement in the same area.
Lebanese Hezbollah, with the support of Iran, has deployed thousands of fighters to Syria and provides direction to other militant and terrorist groups, all fomenting regional instability. Iran's provocative and assertive behavior, as we saw most recently this past weekend in northern Israel, increases the potential for escalation.
Now, the gentleman yesterday did not weigh in on whether the United States should stay, but what do you think?
Well, look, you know, Russia, Iran, Assad, and then Turkey, for different reasons, are all pursuing their interests there. Fair question, why should the United States be in the middle of it? And what is in our interest there? Well, one, if we just pull out and withdraw, we're going to have ISIS 3.0 emerge for a number of reasons. And then two, it is certainly in our interest to check Iran's advances, which they have made, Dana, they have made more gains in the last 8 years in terms of being able to threaten Israel and dominate the Middle East than they have in the last 1,000 years. We need to keep small forces on the ground, special forces, advisors, backed by air power and logistics, because if we just walk away, our allies will be abandoned and slaughtered, and we'll never be able to work with them again.
And all that work we've done would be for nothing. Now, let me ask you then about a last question here. We don't have that much time, but about Israel, because it's not backing down in any way.
That's right. Israel is our key ally in the region. Israel hit Hezbollah and its Iranian backers hard when they started flying drones over their border over the past weekend. And that is absolutely in the United States' interest to defend our allies, stand with them. That doesn't mean hundreds of thousands of troops, U.S. troops on the ground, but there are ways to stand with our allies in the region that we're not letting the Iranians and Russians and Assad just run amok across the Middle East.
All right. Michael Waltz, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dana.